or hard of hearing.
Okay, so
first of all, I want to welcome everyone to Massachusetts Office on Disabilities Disability Connections event today. Thank you very much for coming in person, and thank you to all of our virtual guests or attendees that are watching this online. We have about 100, probably a little less than that, in the audience here today, and approximately 170 joining us digitally. Virtually, I should say. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Mary Mahon McCauley, and I am very proud and happy to be the executive director of the Massachusetts Office on Disability. I've been at MOD now for 5 years, which is hard to believe. I was sworn in by Governor Governor Patrick. I had him on my mind. Charlie Baker, Governor Baker, in 2019 in September. So it's been about 5 years. I recently, prior to that, worked at Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission for 30 years. So a little visual description. I'm a woman around 60 or so. A little over, but that's just, you don't need all those details. And I have blonde hair, I'm tall, and I'm wearing a black dress with black sunglasses and a white short jacket. I think there's a special name for this, I can't think of it. Gold earrings and gold necklace. And it's I like to hear when individuals do describe what they're wearing. It helps me with my disability, or one of my disabilities. I'd like to also disclose my disabilities today. I happen to be blind. I've been legally blind since age 17. I'm also excuse me, I'm also in recovery from substance use disorder, and I've been in recovery for over 40 years. And I have dealt through my life with depression that is in partial remission at this point. The reason that I mention these things is because I really feel that still today in 2024, although I've been a disability advocate since the 1970s, but still in 2024, we have stigma. There's a lot of stigma surrounding individuals, a lot of misunderstanding and myths surrounding individuals with disabilities, whether they're physical and seen or whether they're hidden disabilities. So loud and proud to say what my disabilities are. And I feel that that's important, and if it can reduce any stigma from in any small way, then that could be something that's helpful. So the program is going to be great today. As I said, I'm glad that all of you are here live and in person. And there's going to be a lot going on. And I really want to thank my staff. I have a wonderful staff at Mass Office on Disability. I'm very lucky. I'm very proud to be in this position and work with so many great people that don't just do the job, but really have the passion and the interest in people's lives with disabilities being better. All of you in this room, the colleagues and any individual that's here, really lives the inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. We don't just talk about inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. We walk it in our daily lives, which is so critical. And if you are committed to social justice, then you need to be committed to disability justice, because disability justice is social justice. Thank you. It's just a basic fact of truth, actually. So I want to specifically, I want to thank all my staff, but I'll tell you, Lilia Malikshi, who is yes, everyone give Lilia a round of applause. And clearly people knew the name right away because she is the manager of training and communications, and she is the backbone behind this event. She's done a lot of work to plan, to put everything through for today, putting through the schedule, executing it, and making it a reality. So really proud of her and all the work that she's done to make this event happen. I also want to thank Suffolk Law School for giving us this wonderful space, and let's give them a round of applause. Specifically, the External Affairs Department actually gave us the space to use and provided the continental breakfast and coffee. So thank you very much to External Affairs. And if anyone is here and you go to this school and you thought this was your constitutional law class, you're in the wrong place. So you may want to get up now and go to class. You're a little late. But you could also stay here. We have a lot to teach you possibly that you can learn about disability law. So that's another very important piece of law, as we all know. Well, time.
No, we're at time.
My 2 minutes is up. I have Julia, the general counsel here is telling me, so I need to pass her the mic before I say too much. As a lot of people know, I could talk for 1 hour on one lip, but I won't. And it's all yours, Julia.
All right, we're going to go over a couple of access notes just before we introduce Secretary Gorzkowicz. There is CART up projected on the screen to my left. There is an ASL interpreter up to my right. If you need to change seats or walk around during event, feel free. Please just don't cross in the front of aisle because you will block the captions which are on the screen where to my right here. There are bathrooms outside the doors when you checked in. The women's room is to the left and the men's room is to the right. And MOD staff are available at the check-in table to assist you if you need anything. So with that, if you want to introduce the secretary.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to, I have the honor of introducing Secretary Matthew Gorzkowicz, who is the Secretary of Administration and Finance in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, working on the cabinet directly with our governor and lieutenant governor. And Secretary Gorzkowicz has had 25 years working in the area of finance and budgeting. Years ago, working in the Senate, working in different agencies within the state, and also working at the Executive Office of Administration and Finance under Deval Patrick. Maybe that's where the name was in my head from. So he's actually been, prior to being in this position under our Governor Maura Healey, he worked for 10 years at University of Massachusetts President's Office and was working within the fiscal area, within finance as an undersecretary or assistant secretary, I'm sorry, Secretary Gorzkowicz. And he had a budget at that time of $3.8 billion and was chosen, I think, as the right person to be at the helm for the Office of the Administration and Finance Executive Office. He lives in Winthrop with his wife and 2 children. And please come up to the mic, Secretary. Let me sit. Yeah. Right here. Wait, let me go around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Julia. And thank you all so much for inviting me to the Disability Connections. It's great to be here, and I'm pleased to be able to kick off this event today. I think for those, it's helpful. I've never done it before, but I think it makes sense for me to describe myself a little bit to those who might find it helpful. I am a white male, 6 feet tall, I feel like I used to be 6'1", but most recently I'm 6 feet. So I don't know what that means. Probably an indication of my age, which is somewhere around 50. I'm learning from you, Mary, already. I don't need to be very specific, do I? Just specific enough. I'm wearing a light gray suit and a light blue shirt with a blue and red tie with a pattern I don't know that I could honestly describe. It looks kind of like geometrical to me. But anyway, that is who I am, and thank you for that kind introduction. It's really important for advocates to come together to learn about the work of the Massachusetts Office on Disability and to connect with allies across government in the nonprofit sector to support the needs of the disability community across the Commonwealth. I am so proud that the Mass Office of Disability, MOD, is an agency within my secretariat. And I say that because the majority of the agencies that I oversee, the A&F agencies, focus on state government working well and effectively. We spend a lot of time with human resources, facilities, purchasing, tax collections, the very important process of collecting our taxes as we're now entering tax season in April. But MOD is very different, as you can well imagine. Instead of keeping state government running, MOD keeps government accountable. MOD is there to challenge state and local governments to ensure the rights of people with disabilities, but also to provide guidance and support to government agencies so that they can meet their obligations under the federal and state law, making the world better through both pressure and ideas. A very important concept. And I appreciate a lot of the guidance and that I get from both Mary and Julia in the meetings we have. They've been very informative, and I've learned a lot from both of them. So thank you. And this seems like a good way to think about this year's recipients of the Hopkins Award. In 2002, 11 MBTA riders and the Boston Center for Independent Living, BCIL, filed a class access lawsuit against the MBTA, citing a number of accessibility-related complaints. The settlement agreement reached in 2006 led to many lasting improvements, including the creation of the Department of System-Wide Accessibility at the T, and improved elevator design standards, more robust training for operators, and much, much more. As stated by the MBTA at the time, this agreement is based on a shared vision between plaintiffs and the MBTA to make the MBTA a model transit system accessible to all. There is a mutual commitment and desire to comply not only with the letter, but also the spirit of the Americans with Disabilities Act, with the complete understanding that all people with disabilities must have every opportunity to be fully participating members of our community, and that fundamental to this opportunity is the right and ability to use public transportation in an equal and effective and dignified manner. The pressure and ideas brought on and the MBTA on and to the MBTA has made our transportation system much more accessible than it ever would have been otherwise. And that has made a huge difference in the lives of thousands of people across the region, and I commend today's awardees for their resilience and persistence. Thank you. Pressure can certainly make a difference, but assistance is often equally effective, and MOD's expertise at programming have led to real change. One example of this change is the nearly $4 million that Mass Office of Disability awards to cities and towns this year through the Municipal ADA Improvement Grant Program, a grant program that we administer in partnership with the Mass Office of Disability through the Executive Office of Administration and Finance. This $4 million in the current fiscal year 2024 capital plan represented an increase in the program's budget of $1 million from fiscal year 23 and $2 million from fiscal year 22. Over 3 years, the program has provided a total of $9 million to cities and towns and have gone to more than 100 communities across the Commonwealth, helping them to improve accessibility. Cities and towns have used these grants to address architectural barriers and to their facilities and services. These grants fund planning efforts as well as infrastructure, such as ramp or elevators that can make it easier for a person with a disability to access government buildings. This is real equity at work. And pleased to know that Governor Healy, equity is more than just a concept. She is looking to embed it in all the ways government works and thinks and operates. And Mass Office of Disability is a great example of how that can happen. So thank you again for having me here today. Mary and the team at Mass Office of Disability, Julia, Lilia, thank you for hosting this event today. The work you do is great. I've learned a lot from you and appreciate working with you on these important efforts, and know that you have my partnership and my support in the efforts that Mass Office of Disability needs. And pleased to see so many of you here today at the Mass Disabilities Connects program to come together and talk about these important ideas to make disabilities more accessible. I hope you enjoy the day in terms of building connections and developing the ideas and relationships to continue to do the important work that you do. So thank you for having me here today, and hope you have a great day. So thank you.
Okay.
Here, Mary.
All right, I'll take this side. You want to stop?
Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Thank you, Secretary Gorzkowicz. So I'm Julia O'Leary. I am a white woman, blonde hair, in my 30s. We want to we want this to be an opportunity today for the Massachusetts disability community to come together and share your expertise and experiences with each other. The Massachusetts disability community is strong because of our collaboration. So I want to shout out to our Zoom guests who have been sharing their expertise and connections to MOD in the chat. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat. To our in-person guests here at Suffolk, take a minute to turn to your neighbor and say hello and introduce yourself.
To your right and left. Oh, good. You can tell some of them know each other. Oh, good. They're doing it.
I know they don't always.
Awesome.
All right, that's enough connecting. We've got a program. All right, we're going to have a 15-minute break later in the program to mingle, and we'll try to end early so you have more time to chat, because I see a lot of really good conversations getting started.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Let me just add something.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, you know, as Julia said, that we have time built in. There's a 15-minute break, and then there'll also be more time at the end to finish the conversations that you're starting, to share ideas with each other, to possibly begin talking about collaboration, share business cards. So thank you. That was great.
So now that you've introduced yourselves to each other, let me introduce you to Mass Office on Disability if you don't know us. We are a small government agency that provides information, guidance, and training on disability rights, disability-related civil rights, and architectural access. There are many great laws protecting people with disabilities and outlining steps that municipalities, housing providers, employers, and businesses are required to take in order to ensure accessibilities. But those laws only work if people know about them. MOD helps people navigate this maze of laws and regulations and how to apply and how they apply to their specific situations. Arming self-advocates with knowledge about their rights, and municipalities, state agencies, housing providers, employers, businesses, and others about their legal obligation makes our Commonwealth more inclusive and accessible overall. So far this fiscal year, MOD has supported the public by responding to over 2,500 inquiries from people looking to learn more about the laws so that they can better self-advocate or comply with accessibility requirements, and by providing over 50 trainings and presentations to hundreds of people across the Commonwealth. We've assisted municipalities by awarding nearly $4 million in municipal ADA grants, as the Secretary mentioned. These grants support accessibility at the local level. These funds went towards accessibility improvements at playgrounds, parks, historic government buildings, and more. This year, we also launched the Municipal ADA Coordinator Peer Resource Group for idea sharing and training amongst municipal ADA coordinators. And I'm leading that, so join if you're a municipal ADA coordinator. We've also supported state agencies by continuing to offer ongoing training to executive branch ADA coordinators and providing technical expertise to ensure that the Commonwealth's digital offerings are accessible to all. So now we are going to get started with our Hopkins Award.
Nice to that. In a little while, we'll be showing a video, and the video outlines Tom Hopkins' life around advocacy. Linda is here?
Yes.
Linda Hopkins, the wife of Tom, please stand and sign.
Her son's,
When?
her son is also here.
Oh, okay, and her son.
Damien.
Thank you, thank you for being here. Tom's legacy, Tom has passed and his legacy remains and continues to live on quite strongly in the disability community. This family lived in Spencer, Mass, and through a lot of things that he learned through Mass Office on Disability and understanding disability rights and disability laws and accessibility, as a person with a disability, he knew that things were not right in Spencer. He knew that there were inaccessible programs or inaccessible buildings. There was a lot that wasn't according to what the law states that it should be. And he took action. Very, very strong advocate. And, you know, we have continued with the Tom Hopkins Award for, I believe it was 2015?
Ish.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
They're not.
When Tom received the award. And since, you know, we have awarded the Tom Hopkins Award to different individuals or groups of individuals that have really mirrored that amount, that strong advocacy, the endurance that you need to be able to fight against something that you're being told no to from a municipality or from a state or from a corporation or from an organization that's larger than you. You know, so this year we'll be presenting this, as everyone knows, to the Joanne Finegold, Daniels-Finegold, sorry, Joanne, to the lawsuit from 2002 that was really against the MBTA for multiple inaccessible features of the T. There was, you know, prior even, and they began the lawsuit in 1990s, late 1990s. But, you know, being someone that's rode the T since the 1960s, and through the 1970s, going to UMass Boston, as a person that's visually impaired and I've been, you know, blind since 17, as I said earlier, you know, in knowing many people with various mobility challenges that were wheelchair users, you know, the T was not accessible. We'll get into more of that. Hold on.
We're going to show the video.
Show the video first, right? Yeah, because we really want to share this video so that everyone can see some of the details of how Tom Hopkins fought against Spencer. He later became the executive director of the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, and proud to really carry on his memory. So let's watch the video first, and then we'll go from there.
When this video starts, A split screen shows the film at left and an ASL interpreter at right. Captions below provide a text version of everything spoken. At a ceremony, MCB Commissioner David D'Arcangelo presents an award to a man in a wheelchair.
Tom has been there every step of the way to answer any and all questions. And you're such a resource. And I know so many people in this room value your leadership that you've given over the years. And I would assert that you have probably made more things accessible for more persons with disabilities than maybe anybody else in the Commonwealth.
Over footage of a quaint New England town, text reads, Tom Hopkins, 1954 to 2019. Tom's son, Damon, speaks.
In all the years I was a kid in these schools, my father never once got to ever come to any of my events. He never got to come to any of my concerts, anything, because he couldn't get into the buildings. As a kid, you don't understand that.
Tom's wife, Linda.
He realized the ADA is a civil rights law. It can only be enforced by a federal suit.
Text. Tom decided to sue the town of Spencer for their failure to implement their obligations under the ADA.
So the suit started, and it was long, drawn out, painful. We knew that it affected both of our boys, but we also both knew that it was necessary. It was important.
Tom's son, Justin.
Oh, it definitely made me a better person, able to get through just about anything, because no excuses, he certainly did.
Linda.
He started investing, writing letters, and starting to build his case for federal court.
You know, the hardest years were really running from 94 to 96 were the roughest years for us during all of this. You know, that was right at my high school graduation and Justin going into high school and all these sort of transitions, and it was just a really difficult time. Oh, it always got worse. It always got worse. I mean, between them threatening to burn us out of this building, and, you know, there was the FBI here for a while, you know, and I used to have a police escort at times, you know, because it was...
He shrugs.
It's the way it was.
And fights back tears.
Well, it's just kind of the way it was.
Paul Spooner, Executive Director, Metro West Center for Independent Living.
You know, when you get dragged through the mud like that, you either do one or two things. You either give up or you get better at what you do. And Tom got better at what he did.
Then he applied for the compliance officer's position at the AAB. It was like a job made just for Tom.
And one of the areas Tom had great impact was ensuring access compliance with historical buildings without taking away the historical nature of the building.
So we're all tabs. If you're not disabled now, you're temporarily able-bodied.
He had these guys who would go out and help him do a site visit, and they would keep notes and take pictures, and he was teaching all these people how to do what he was doing. And I sort of saw a change in him, because then he wasn't alone.
Kate Sutton.
He was a tough guy, but he was never cruel.
Lottery, ADA compliance.
He was always did things with intention and purpose, and would even like back up and explain things for people if they weren't quite getting it.
Patricia Mendez.
I try to take in, I try to ask him questions. And now, after years, when I have like hard questions to think about, I do think, okay, what would Tom say? How would he approach it?
Jeffrey L. Dugan.
He was a resource that I went to very frequently to talk about, you know, the codes, and from that a friendship really developed.
I think that just those road trips that we did together are my favorite memories.
Taught me and my younger brother both an immeasurable amount of tolerance and patience and things, and understanding for, you know, things around us that we can't control. People, places, and things you cannot control. That's what my father used to always say to us. And you can only control your reaction to them.
And every bit of it's worth it. Definitely taught us to be pretty strong and doing what's right. And, no regrets.
Justin swallows hard. Text. After several years, Tom and the town settled the lawsuit. He donated the money back to the town to fund accessibility improvements.
Before I close today, I wanted to mention a few people.
At the awards ceremony.
My family, obviously, has been very supportive. They're not here today because we just had 2 more grandchildren, twin daughters on Saturday night. So,
Family photos fill a wall. Commissioner D'Arcangelo.
Thank you, Tom. Very well deserved. We appreciate your leadership on AAB, and thank you for your advocacy.
A quote from Tom Hopkins: "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." In memory of Tom Hopkins, 1954 to 2019, Mary Margaret Moore, 1948 to 2022, Paul Spooner, 1955 to 2022. Fade to black.
And if Linda and Damon could stand, thank you very much for being here. He was a great guy in many ways. Yep.
And as Mary said, this year's Tom Hopkins Disability Access Award goes to the named plaintiffs in the Daniels-Finegold Settlement Agreement. Like Tom, they saw an injustice and sprung into action. Their 2002 class action lawsuit against the MBTA resulted in historic system-wide changes, including the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, the Riders Transportation Access Group that a lot of us call RTAG, the Internal Access Monitoring Program, low floor buses, and expanded elevator access at MBTA stations. So if the awardees can please come to the stage as I call your name, and then stay up here for a photo. If you're going to come up to
my left,
Mary's left. All right. So the Boston Center for Independent Living, that's Bill Henning.
I want to make sure I was looking towards the camera. I'm not sure where it is. Am I close?
Yeah, you're good. Straight ahead. Straight ahead, Mary.
One more. What do we want? Access.
What do we want?
Now.
What do we want?
Access.
When are we gonna get it?
Now.
All right, thank you. This is for all of BCIL, not for me. And it does not have my name on it.
You're welcome.
Myrnairis Cepeda. Cepeda? Nick Cepeda.
Can you follow that, man?
All right, I'm right here.
Okay, how's that?
There we go. Excellent.
Is it even?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Reginald Clark.
Reggie. Hello, Mr. Clark. Oh, Rhonda. All right, come on. There you go. Perfect. There you go. Here's the other side. It's right in front of you. Is that even?
Yeah.
Yeah. The blind faux pas. You could be holding it upside down. Are we okay?
You're good.
There we go.
You're beautiful.
Cheese. Smile. Yeah. All right.
Great.
Great. There you go. Great. Well, congratulations. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Joanne Daniels-Finegold.
This is the first time we've been able to meet. Very nice to meet you. Oops.
And you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You're good.
Congratulations.
Okay. Look this way.
Oh.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Andrew Foreman.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thomas Gilbert.
Okay, nice. Perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations. Nice addition to the wall.
Greater Boston Legal Services. That's Taramati Doucette and Dan Manning. Stand here. They only have one.
You'll have to share. Should I be in the middle? Yes.
There we go.
Oh, but yeah, I'll just hold it up.
All right. And thank you.
Thank you.
Danford Larkin. I don't think he's here today.
And
Robert Park.
yes, we have Robert.
One more.
Okay. Yeah, make sure I don't hold it. Here we go.
There we go. Awesome. Nice. Here's perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I can't hear.
Okay. Should I put it in the back?
Yeah.
I'll wait. I'll do it.
Then is Jean Smith here? No. We also want to acknowledge 3 other plaintiffs who have passed away. While they're no longer with us, their impact is still felt every day. So thank you to Maureen Cansemi, Madeline Joan Golden, and Rogera Robinson. In 2012, the MBTA put together a 10-year anniversary video while examining the lawsuit and its impact. While our panelists are settling in, please enjoy this video. And panelists, if you can come and take a seat up at the table here.
In 2002, a group of people with disabilities from the Greater Boston area, fed up with the inaccessible, unsafe, and undignified public transit system, filed a class action suit against the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority.
It used to take me 2 hours virtually every day to get to work because buses wouldn't work, lifts on buses wouldn't work, elevators wouldn't work.
I ride it every, 7 days a week if I have to go somewhere because I don't drive.
I had just had my second accident on the MBTA where the bus driver had opened the doors. I was hardly out the doors when he closed the doors on my hands and literally dragged me about a block.
We will ride 10 years after the settlement.
We're celebrating the 10-year anniversary, but this case started way before. In the early 90s, I began working with a group in the Dorchester-Roxbury neighborhood and Jamaica Plain neighborhood, just representing them on a variety of issues. No matter what the topic was, people wanted to talk about public transportation. People wanted to talk about why it is they couldn't get there.
Oh, wow, bus. Albany bus. That's Albany, yeah. Look it. Yeah, you can.
We said there's got to be a better way to bring this situation to a better life for disabled people.
I would call the bulk of them advocates, community advocates. They knew their rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act. They knew they had a right to readily accessible, usable, safe public transportation.
The whole issue was making the system better to get from point A to point B without all that obstacles, without fear of falling.
And we filed a lawsuit in 2002. GBLS didn't have any transportation experience. We have a lot of experience litigating against state agencies and government agencies. It was a hostile relationship. They were really angry that we sued them.
I had very little experience with what it was like for the person with a disability to have to navigate the MBTA. And I think that was true probably of most T employees and management.
When we started with the MBTA, they didn't even want to meet with us. We had people who said at the MBTA, oh, people with disabilities can crawl up the stairs if the elevator isn't working.
Our clients wanted 100% access, and that is what we set out to do.
The judge had asked the plaintiffs and their lawyers, if you got everything you wanted out of the MBTA, what would it be? I asked our lawyers to let me see it. I couldn't find anything in there that I didn't think that they were owed by right of law or just doing the right thing to provide accessibility. My own lawyers said, you should know that they're not asking for any money for the individual plaintiffs or for the members of the class. Whatever they get us to agree to at the MBTA, they just want us to spend the money to fix it so they can use the system.
Accessibility means to me that everyone can ride our system. Everybody's able to use the system, regardless of if they have a disability, they don't have a disability.
Accessibility is the only civil right that actually costs money. And there is always this perception that we can't afford it, so why?
I think once people started to become aware, they realized, well, this system needs to change in a lot of ways.
Instead of an us, them, we, they dialogue, it's us.
What they began to see was the plaintiffs really knew what they were talking about and could be a real help.
The theme of the settlement was to expand accessibility to our system. There was a specific list of items that, as part of the settlement, we were to institute within a period of time. We're pretty far along in getting most of those done. But the theme was to expand accessibility to throughout our system.
When the MBTA had trainings and they were putting out a new bus design, they invited the entire plaintiffs group and Judge King to come and look at these buses. So now, instead of we are going to give you a plan and show you what we're doing, we are invited into the heart of the MBTA to give our input.
The named plaintiff group has participated in everything from revamping bus rules and train rules for the motor people and drivers to bus training and work with vehicle design and engineering. When I signed the settlement agreement in April of 2000, I signed it saying this is going to tie me to the T for the rest of my life. There's always going to be room for improvement. And I expected and wanted to be a participant in making the improvements that have been made.
My ability to get to Boston and around Boston is much better. The elevators are working. Stations are somewhat more accessible. We have developed an amazing collaborative effort with the MBTA. We have transformed this system by virtue of our collaboration together.
On Friday, I went to Washington, D.C., and I'm extremely unhappy with the metro system. The lighting was terrible. The path of travel was terrible. So it was a pretty bad experience. I'm pretty proud of what we have here.
One big thing that's changed within the organization is that we've got a number of employees with disabilities making decisions often on behalf of people with disabilities, which is something that unfortunately had not been occurring here.
Remember, it was a culture of rude bus drivers, horrible service, people with disabilities didn't matter. And then you see this change to you matter, we're working with you, we see you, we hear you.
One of the big things that have come out of this lawsuit, having an internal advocacy network for people with disabilities so that we can be represented, our needs can be represented to the MBTA.
I conduct every 6 months a public meeting where the plaintiffs, T management all get together, and T management has an opportunity to hear from the plaintiffs and other members of their community with regard to how the T is performing its services.
People have really bought into the importance of this issue, in large part because they've seen what a difference it makes, not only for people with disabilities, but also the general ridership and also our employees too.
Well, for the past 28 years I've been here at the MBTA, the changes that it's brought about have been absolutely huge. So many of our stops weren't accessible, they're now accessible.
When anyone comes to Massachusetts, when anyone rides the MBTAs, what do they see? You hear audible stop announcements. Do you see the visual monitors telling you when your train or bus is coming? You actually get to know when your elevators are out.
There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but we've come light years.
I'm hoping that the T is going to be at the forefront. It's going to be lead in the country as far as that's concerned. We really need to be.
The Boston case is now set a national standard, and people do look to it. New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Atlanta. We've been in touch with people everywhere, and they want to learn from our experience.
I think we're so still in the midst of it, but I have no doubt that 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we'll look back and just be blown away.
It's gratifying to be able to participate in the improvements in the system, not just sitting around and watching them happen.
Before it wasn't a priority for total access, it now is. And I'm very proud to be a part of that.
I never thought things would change. And since the change in my situation, having the trains available, having the buses available, made my life complete.
Well, overall, the investment in the stations and the systems have not only provided access to persons with disabilities, but have provided a better quality and better access to everybody using the system. Our signage is clearer, our stations have better paths of travel, our vehicles are in better condition, and more importantly, we're putting that necessary investment into maintenance to make sure that these facilities stay up and are available most of the time.
We got a ways to go, but we've come a long ways as well. We have a lot more new buses now. They're a lot more accessible.
Yeah, we came a long way.
There's a lot better training with the bus drivers and bus operations and how to deal with people with persons with disabilities.
We're living longer than we have ever lived before. By the time you're age 65, over 50% of folks have a condition that impacts their daily life. Most of the time, it's an invisible condition. So when we actually start talking about civil rights, it's not about me. It's not about Laura or Joanne. It's actually about everyone.
While much progress has been made, the settlement agreement is still in its enforcement stage, and the group continues to work towards 100% accessibility. This film is dedicated to named plaintiff Rogera Robinson. If they strive to foster this understanding, to help those who need assistance, and do what they can to treat disabled passengers with respect, the goal of this settlement will be achieved. This film was made possible by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, Greater Boston Legal Services, and the Boston Center for Independent Living.
We're gonna get Joanne up here, though. Oh, yes. Can we move the podium so she can? Can we? No. We can add a chair over there, maybe.
Where's the mic?
Am I not to sit in front of the screen here?
Do you want me to try and take that spot?
Or you want
Come on, move over,
Oh, to the left.
so that Joanne can sit right.
Hold on a bit while we're straightening out the crowd on the piano.
Oh, to my right of me.
No, if you, oh, you're gonna go over there, Joanne? How are you gonna get over there?
Tell me when we're set.
Testing, test.
Okay, all set? Okay, all set. Let me introduce Bill. So I just want to introduce our moderator of the panel, Bill Henning. What can be said about Bill Henning? He's very humble, I'll tell you that, but he is one of the leaders of the disability community in Boston and Massachusetts, in my thoughts. And he's been working for 40 years with independent living. He worked down the Cape with CORD. He's with BCIL for quite a long time now. And I would like to have, he's going to moderate the panel. Thank you very much, Bill, for doing that for us. And is there anything else before he starts?
No,
Okay,
it's
so it's all yours, Bill.
great. Thank you, Mary. It's great to be here. It's great, I think, for all of us to be honored by MOD, but especially in honor of Tom Hopkins. You know, we're on limited time, so I'll try and be brief. But, you know, when I think of Tom, and I knew Tom back in his Spencer days, and look at it. Tom took on the city. His kids were harassed. His wife was harassed. Tom was harassed, and the community rallied around him. Then you fast forward 20 years later, and the state's given an award in the name of Tom Hopkins. And you look at these plaintiffs, some of the most splendid people I've ever met, who took on the MBTA, who took on the Department of Transportation, which spent millions of dollars in legal fees of taxpayers' money to fight a suit they could never win, and that was against equity and justice. And now we are getting an award for civil rights advocacy. And the lesson on that is keep plugging away, because what we do in our work is right. That is the thing that this is all about. So you know, yesterday there were about 30 people outside the governor's office fighting for the PCA program to be sure it won't be cut, because that allows independence and compliance with the ADA via the Olmsted Supreme Court decision. I said to the secretary, a very gracious man, maybe in 20 years you'll be giving that crew who was there yesterday an award for fighting for justice. We've got to keep going forward in all of this. And that's what as the moderator here, I asked the plaintiffs to think of, you know, what is the message you would give to people as an advocate? We could go, each one of us could speak for probably 2 hours, 3 hours on the depths of this lawsuit. But what's real important, I think, is the lesson of these phenomenal people. I'm going to start with Joanne Daniels-Finegold, an extraordinarily bright woman who's given heart and soul to this case. Joanne,
what's your lesson of over 25 years of advocacy on this case and in your life in general, which goes beyond just this profound settlement?
Don't give up. Don't give up. When someone finds a problem, as Tara did, and brings it to a place where things can be resolved, and that place, GBLS, takes this on, you're talking about a United Way agency that bought the MBTA. And they found us, who have hard heads and decided we needed to ride the T anyway, going to school and whatnot, going to work. And we just became involved and we didn't stop. And if you're in a position, in a place where there's a group of people who have a problem that you all have to deal with, look into doing something about the problem. Tom was by himself. We had a number of people plus legal services with us. But you can put together whatever you need and don't give up.
And Joanne has never given up, and
when we were in discovery, I had an office at Legal Services that was piled to the ceiling with Bates boxes full of documents. And I had to go through every one of them because things were hidden in the 15-inch thick quarterly reports that went to the Department of Transportation in Washington asking to be excused from being in compliance with the ADA.
Thanks, Joanne. Cepeda, a fierce advocate from Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury. What is your advocacy message to everybody?
If you're angry, stay angry.
If you're angry, stay angry. Yes.
We don't, people have different reactions, but usually when you find an injustice, you find something that needs solving and you get angry about it, do something about it. So my message is be prepared. Not everyone is going to like you and not everyone's going to agree with you. Follow your heart. Because sometimes you may even lose your friends. Grow a double steel skin and enjoy the experience. And on your way, gain knowledge and realize that as you gain knowledge, as you do the work, you become an expert. You become an expert at organizing. You become an expert at speaking. You become an advocate all around. But stay angry, do the work, and enjoy the experience.
Thanks, Mick. When I was thinking of this last night, I have to say, the award's named after Tom Hopkins, who endured harassment, as we said, and worse, and his kids, no less, in Spencer, Mass. Mick endured it in Dorchester. They wanted to open up the Savin Hill train station without MBTA station, brand new station without accessibility. It was easy for me at BCIL to say, you can't do that, or Tara, we're not going to do that. But Mick lived there and had to face her neighbors who had been waiting for this new station, and we collectively, for the cause, but Mick was on the front line getting that harassment the way Tom did for justice, and I'll be forever thankful for Mick for doing that for the right cause, for compliance with the ADA. Tom Gilbert, what's your message on advocacy? The man who shovels out bus stops when it snows if the T's been a little bit delinquent to make a point and to advance accessibility.
Hey,
That's right.
That too.
Joanne does it too, down in Braintree.
And Joanne as well. Yeah, no. I just wanted to say, I think it's advocating. It's when you get angry, turn that anger into action. Um, again, advocating. Try your best to understand why the system isn't working right. Question, always question. For instance, like um, when I've ridden on the bus routes in the past in the past years since this case was settled and before it was settled, I talked to a lot of quote unquote good T employees that were really informative and really educational of why we were so successful because one of the reasons I'd learned from employees of why the things or why they were the way they were and I could better understand. And I always sat at the front of the bus and always talked with everybody and paid attention to what's going on. When they have bad PAs on the red line, I'd always ride in the first car, let the motor person know, hey, your PA's not working. I wouldn't like accuse them of saying, well, you're not making stop announcements. I would simply say, give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, your PA's not working. I can't hear you. I can't hear you over the speaker. Or I'd let the bus driver know, hey, your transit master isn't working. The stops are not being called out correctly. And the best response I can get is that they would say, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for letting me know. If they gave me an attitude, then they need to be reported. So,
And
yeah,
yeah. And just to put it into context, we're talking about this big suit. I think there was a listing of all the gains and everything, and no one knows how much it's cost, but the world likes numbers, and we think it's well over $2 billion, $3 billion when you think of accessible buses, stations, subways, commuter rails, paying the staff to do this. But it's been in small bits. So Joanne talks about whatever bus number it is in Braintree. I should know that route by now if it's
Mine is the 230.
the 230 bus is not working. So for everybody in your work, whether you're on Zoom or in the audience, don't be intimidated because, oh, this was a big suit with GBLS or BCIL and these great group of plaintiffs, because they're tackling this in their own little worlds kind of, and we get support. But it's been a lot of individual efforts coalescing, and that's the message that we can move systems. And Laura Brelsford, who's been a superstar head of system-wide accessibility, she's us with them. What's your message to everybody?
I would say the biggest thing that I have learned doing this work and feel like I learn again and again every day is in order to be successful in making change, in order for that change to be sustainable, and in order for you to maintain your sanity, it's about the relationships that you have with other people. The MBTA is a huge organization with a complicated organizational structure. I'm not even sure I understand these structures sometimes, but it's made up of individuals. And I know in the early days of the settlement, what made this group so effective was their ability to identify key people within the organization that really understood the importance of the work they were driving. Not everyone will, not everyone does today, but I think just finding those folks that you can build trust and share your message with ends up resulting in a lot of the sort of your message being amplified in all sorts of ways. I watching the video about Tom and seeing his family here, all I could think about was when I first moved into the position I hold now, I would go up to Tom's office about once a month to say, essentially, Tom, what are we going to do? We've got all of these really complicated cases. And just got to know him. He was so incredibly patient and helpful. Amazing sense of humor. And just having that relationship ended up making such a difference in the MBTA's ability to sort of navigate the MAB and other regulatory bodies. And that was just based on sort of personal relationship and trust that was built. And when I think about particularly these guys here, the plaintiffs, and a number of the writers we work with regularly, having those relationships and building that trust with them, I think is what has all kept us going, both those of us working for the T and those working with the T.
Thank you, Laura. And we will have to keep working with the T and pushing to ensure compliance with the law. We're not there at 100% accessibility. But speaking of relationships, I think one thing that's important to note, Mick said, you've got to stay angry. And I think if you don't have the anger for justice, we can't do this work.
Right.
But you also have to have relationships. And in the film, there was the general manager at the time when this lawsuit was resolved, Dan Grabowskis. And one of his comments to all this was, and I love this, he goes, the nicest bunch of people who ever sued me.
That's right. I remember that.
But we weren't nice all the time. You know, we held a public hearing. We rented space at the MBTA and held what I called at the time a tribunal and invited the GM, who wasn't Grabowskis, to come hear a bill of particulars from people, from these folks and others in the community. We showed up in a snowstorm to pick it outside the MBTA. So it was anger driven, but you had to develop the relationships and maintain them and keep it in the family now sometimes. But it's still got to be this driving factor, as Joanne said, don't give up. And then we've got at the end, Christopher Hart, who would have been the plaintiff, but he was too important, I think, with his technical knowledge to just stay connected with the T, working with the T. But he's been a plaintiff in Saul since day one, I would dare say. I don't think anyone could dispute that at all. Christopher, from the great borough of Hyde Park, where I live.
Yes, the last neighborhood of Boston, like that. So I look at this group of folks who have done an amazing job at staying together for over 20 years. Just last week, March was our anniversary of signing it settlement, and it's worth noting how many folks are still involved. And in my career, I had the opportunity to work at the federal level as well as here in state government at the T, and doing work for nonprofit organizations doing ADA transition plans. The key is always having dedicated advocates, and advocates should become user experts. The 100+ affidavits that we gathered represented user experts of the team. Nobody could disagree with their experiences, and you have to leverage that user expertise into subject matter expertise. And we have an age-old problem, particularly in the disability community, where we are spread a mile wide and an inch deep. And we, in part of our mission, much like Marilyn Golden, has been trying to cultivate younger folks to become subject matter experts. Because as I think about folks here at this table, none of us are getting any younger.
Well, we've got some young folks in the audience. The coordinator for RTAG, Kat, how old are you? 24. All right, all right.
this is where folks like Kat are critical to actually carrying on like the legacy of the work, because you will find even as we work to close out the settlement, we still get new staff at the T who say just last week, well, we're not going to do anything beyond legal compliance. And that's where we all had to say, guess what? Just tell me what I have to do to comply with the law. Does not get you compliant. It gets you a checkbox.
Yep.
And that's the key thing that all of you have to keep us honest in state government.
Thank you, Chris. We will keep you honest, although you're always honest, but we've got to keep the collective honest. And, Colleen Flanagan, who's one of the great firebrands of the state of Massachusetts, isn't the oldest person I've ever met there out in the audience either. And there's a few others of you. There are other plaintiffs who do great jobs. We have limited space on the panel. There's Andy Foreman from BCIL, who's gone to just countless meetings for the cause and has been the champion of wayfinding, how to get around stations. We have Rob Park. He works at Mass Rehab now. He worked at BCIL, and he was the driver for BCIL on this lawsuit. I'll come into the office, and I've told this story a lot. Some of you have heard it, but for many days at periods, there'd be a voicemail. Hey, Bill, it's Rob. I'm stuck in the elevator in the garage at the Lynn MBTA station. The fire department's coming. I've been here for 2 hours. And we heard that 3 or 4 times. Or I got stuck in the snow on the ramp. And it just really got us moving and kicking, and joined with the phenomenal GBLS folks. And, there's Reggie Clark, who's like, it's hard for me to think of Reggie not with Tom, Gilbert, the bus geniuses. They know everything about the bus system. They know about access for blind people. And what most of you don't know, Reggie is now on the State Commission on Institutions, looking at the sordid history, and it is sordid, of institutionalizing people with disabilities. Reggie was at Fernald and escaped, and is an example in just too many ways to count. So thank you, Reggie. He's now out in Leominster. Thanks for hauling in here yet again for the cause. And then somebody will write a book about Reggie someday, and we can say we knew him. Then we have 2 of the best legal services attorneys you'll meet in America. One's retired. Dan Manning wimped out. He cut away from the scene. He only worked at GBLS for 52 years. Until he was 76 years old. Shame on Dan for trying to get a life. But Dan is here. And then we have Tara Doucette, who helped start this thing. Will tell you that aside from her family, I think her life is this lawsuit at GBLS and the Children's Healthcare Disability Project at GBLS she started. But I want to call Tara up. She has been like a driving force, an organizer, meal preparer, phone caller, kicking the butt to all of us when we needed us, to hold us accountable. And Tara, what's your message on advocacy? Come on up, and you can figure out the mic. I can't. I don't know.
Oh, okay, I'll just take the one. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for this amazing, awesome award. And I met the Hopkins family. Nice to meet you all. I got to tell you all something. My message is straightforward. This case didn't come out of some big treatise book or whatever. It came from the community. I was out there doing community lawyering seminar, like the film showed. Every time I went to talk about SSI, disability benefits, mass health, whatever, the people just wanted to talk about, we can't get on the bus. We can't get on the train. How can we hear you?
People hardly showed up for some of the events because they couldn't, board the buses and trains. So what did we do? We went out after those stories. Everybody's saying, how can I take on and challenge a big sister? There's power in your voices, your stories. Oh, we documented over 100 affidavits. We had brain power at Legal Services. I gotta tell you, Dan Manning, who's just sued just about everyone to bring about justice and who really knows how to craft a settlement agreement. Remember, I was a younger lawyer in those days. And Dan just banged out with the team, and the plaintiffs sat at the table, and it was their words that we were pounding out in the settlement agreement. But the mover and shaker, and I gotta give a shout out, my boy Dan Manning, I'm telling you. But so my message, honestly and truthfully, it's the stories. If you see an injustice, if you see violations of the ADA, and you know something is wrong, do like Tom Hopkins did. You document your story. You pull yourself together. You get people together to write their stories. And then those stories, you build from that. You organize. So it's document, organize, and collaborate. And who do you collaborate with? Mass Office on Disabilities, Boston Center for Independent Living, Disability Law Center, and that's how you make change. It's not in the big litigation. Litigation is the last resort. The community did not want to go ahead and file a lawsuit. They were ready, they were taking all the actions that they could do on their own without filing a lawsuit. That was their last resort. So that's my message. Thank you all.
Yeah, and Dan Manning, come on up. Dan did something with Tara that most people don't know. And it wasn't the most exciting thing to get to social justice, which it was, is read about thousands of pages of elevator reports from the MBTA documenting pattern and practice of malfeasance, basically. And Dan did that among a lot of things. And Dan.
I wasn't going to say anything, but after Tara, I got to say, wow, what an experience I had with these many years with this fabulous group of people and a wonderful colleague to work with. It really, Bill's right. I wimped out. I gave up after a few years and sort of I went home. But I truly, and now I can say it because my career is behind me. The highlight of my career was working with this fabulous group of people. So I just want to thank them and thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Dan. And we mentioned some people who are past, Maureen, Rogera, and Marilyn, and they were all with us. Rogera was so strong but graceful. Maureen didn't suffer fools for anybody. I remember getting cussed by her once about something at BCIL. Marilyn spoke out, and we had Dan Larkin, who moved on, but he was kind of a mild person, but knew what was right. It wasn't in the plan, but I don't, this is a team effort, and I don't know how we could just let Reggie and Andy and Rob sit there, if I can just ad lib here, which is how we've done this whole thing anyway over 25 years. Could you briefly say something on just your reflection on advocacy? Rob, I know it's hard for you to speak. You don't want to speak. I can see it on your face, but as he's almost rushing.
I'm so honored to be here. What I want to say is, my struggle started from the simple desire to get to my job so that I could help out other people, so that I could fight for their right. And it's true, I would call Bill in the middle of the night and leave a message on his voicemail so that we could document this. And what participating in the lawsuit has taught me is persistence is important. What's taught me is that negotiation and doing a dance with your partners is important. There's our community at large, there were some that wanted to be very radical and they wanted to dismantle the MBTA piece by piece, but then what are we going to replace it with? So we needed to deal with the existing system and negotiate and come to an agreement about how we were going to move forward, because we could not dismantle the thing and then we would have nothing to work with. So I think in summation, anger is where you start, but advocacy and cooperation is where you end up. And there's still so much work to do. And even though I'm working for the state and cannot regularly participate, my heart, my mind, and my whole well-being is with you whenever you're doing your work. So thank you very much.
Thanks. If you could pass the mic to Reggie. If you're interested, you can pass, Reggie, but.
Hello.
Hey, Reg.
The most important thing is to bring the people back to the table, sit them down, make them come to the table, and come to some agreement what they're going to do and how they're going to work with things. That's the most important thing to do, because there were times Tom was frustrated and stuff. So I said, Tom, let's sit down and develop buses that we could think to connect with people and bring people together and bring them together. Sometimes Tom and I would go in the bus yard at Cabot, and we got caught with that. And,
2003.
That's Cabot Bus Yard.
The Bob Cabot Bus Yard.
Yeah,
One of the bus yards where they store buses.
Charlestown Bus Yard, and Tom and I went there for the training.
Yeah, Charlestown.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie. And Andy Foreman.
Thank you, Bill. My first thought is this is a customer service issue. And I think people with disabilities were not viewed as part of the customer service base. And we have the rights to work, and we have the right to go to the movies and go outside and do what we need to do. And accessibility is not just the law, it's the right thing to do. We were fighting for the right thing to do. I think the biggest thing that we accomplished here was changing the culture of the MBTA. They now are concentrating on one of the most important things, I think, was the formation of system-wide accessibility. That's our internal way to get what we need, and they've done a fantastic job. There's a ways to go, and we're going to still hold feet to the fire and make sure that things are done right. But we changed the priorities of the MBTA, and my work as a disability advocate for the Boston Center for Independent Living for over 23 years, that is one of the things I'm most proud of. Not because it affects people with disabilities today, but because it affects people with disabilities who have not even been born yet, who don't have disabilities to deal with, and it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. We're almost out of time, but we could even end this a little earlier. It's fun being in front of the mic here. I can shout out people. I saw Mike Dumont when I came in, and he reminded me we've been chatting about disability issues since the 1980s. I think he's out there, but a shout out to Mike, who's been with MOD since its days as Office of Handicapped Affairs in the late 1980s. So you need that kind of stability. Maybe to close this out, we have limited time, but Joanne, she's the named plaintiff. Why don't you have a closing comment? Maybe I'll wrap it up after that, maybe not. But Joanne, you wanted to say a final thought here.
One of the things that I've been frequently asked is, what's changed since the settlement agreement? For one thing, my hair was black. But I think the most stunning difference that you can think of in any part of the T system is At that time, there were only 5 accessible Green Line stations. 5. It's an unimaginable thing these days, but 5. And I think that says it all.
How many are there now, Laura?
40.
40.
And we cannot find on the way.
Yep. We all know the T's having some troubles these days, right? To say the least. So what we're going to need too, despite the amazing accomplishment advanced by Joanne, Mick, Tom, collaboration with Laura and Chris and the other plaintiffs and MOD and all our allies, we're going to have to need that moving forward, work with RTAG. The T's in trouble. It needs money, and there's got to be competition for dollars. And we could go back to those dark days of early 2000 when this stuff wasn't a priority. So if we don't show up, and if we don't speak out on T issues, or in your communities on RTA issues, the transit authorities, Metro West, maybe PVTA, you name it, Worcester Regional Transit Authority, et cetera, GATRA, MARTA. CCRTA, Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority. You know, we will not have access to public transportation. Tara said it's the voice of people. That's the power here. And thanks for the award. Tom displayed it. The plaintiffs have done it. We all have to keep speaking up and keeping on. Thank you.
And Bill, you want to do a closing chant?
Well, we already.
Or we good? I will just leave
do a closing
you
chant.
with-
A close, what do we want? PCA, sir? No, that was yesterday.
So what I would say to folks, and I've tried to get folks to say, is lead on, ride on, fly on. Because once we get to ride on, our next step is to fly on.
Meaning inaccessible airlines. Lead on, ride on, fly on. Lead on, ride on, fly on. Lead on, ride on, fly on. Thank you, Chris.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, MOD.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
So we are going to take a 15-minute break. There's food and drinks in the back of the room. There's lots of interesting people to mingle with. But we want you to stick around and actually come back at 12:15. And if you do, one lucky person will walk away with an emergency go bag.
Yes.
So, so take 15, mingle, have a snack, and Mary has one more thing to add.
And just to add, that's our door prize. But other than that, we have some closing remarks about what MOD is doing now. I would love everyone to stay for that. So talk amongst each other, as we said at the beginning, exchange ideas, talk about collaborations, exchange business cards, have another cup of coffee.
And be back at 12:15. All right. Went well.
I'm gonna get some meat back there.
So we're just going over the updates. So
Yeah, you can start.
all right. So thanks, guys. I'm really excited to see all the good conversations happening. This is exactly what we wanted today. So thank you for living up to my expectations. We just wanted to give you kind of a quick look forward of what's happening at MOD. This year, we are keeping a strong focus on digital accessibility. We're continuing to support implementing Executive Order 614, which established the Digital Accessibility and Equity Governance Board. The Commonwealth recently hired a new Chief IT Accessibility Officer, Ashley Bloom. And the governance board established by the executive order has convened and is in the process of appointing public members. I also want to give a shout out to MOD's Rob Dias.
for his work with the Human Resource Division.
Yeah,
I'll give you more time to clap. For his work with the Human Resource Division in making a variety of apps like HRCMS and Mass Achieve more accessible to Commonwealth employees with disabilities. We're also kind of gearing up. I think folks saw that the Department of Justice recently approved a new rule establishing accessibility requirements for Title II entities' web offerings and digital offerings. So looking forward to getting the Commonwealth up to snuff with that regulation. Mary, do you want to talk about state institution?
Yes. Another one of the newer commissions in the state that Bill Henning mentioned earlier is the Special Commission on State Institutions. And MOD has a seat on that. Reggie Clark that's here has a seat on that. And that commission is looking at residential programs that around the state of Massachusetts that were set up for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as state hospitals for people with mental health conditions. And, you know, it's quite a, you know, there's a lot of a lot of tough things to look at. There was definitely, you know, some abuse, some neglect, some a lot of issues in some of those places through the state, through the years that all started. You know, they opened many of them around the 1800s, and so part of this work, the work of this commission, is to try to find out how individuals that lived or stayed or were patients or residents of these institutions can get their records, which are very difficult to ascertain, and also how family members could possibly get the records. You know, we'll be looking at a lot of the information. Very, very sadly, there's some folks that died while they were in like custody of the state, and they may be buried in a place that just has a number on a stone, which is just not giving personal dignity or value to that person. And so finding out who those individuals are, what's the name of that person that is only, you know, represented by a number. There's a lot of different work like that we're doing. You know, I am very proud that the Commonwealth let this commission begin, and we are doing the work because there's some, you know, dirty laundry that will be looked at, and more to come. So that's one thing that's happening right now. We at MOD are involved with a lot of collaborations across the Commonwealth. I know Dawn Brantley is here or was here today, and she's the director of the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, the acting director, but I think she's acting so well, she should just be the director. Anyway, you know, we work closely with them to help individuals around emergency situations, individuals with disabilities specifically. And, you know, where we have a seat on the 911 Commission, we work with the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council, and we have the executive director and others from MDDC that are also here today. We actually are really involved across the state, and, you know, we may not be, you know, we're not lobbyists, you know, that's not, you know, I'm not a lobbyist, I'm an executive director, but we do look at where system problems are, or systemic issues, and we do try to assist and help with those. But one other thing I wanted to mention, which is fairly new, and I heard it on the radio this morning, and I was really glad about this. Yesterday, I attended the advocacy for Autism Advocacy Day at the State House, and it was a really great event. It was a really good event. And one of the things that was talked about is the blue envelope bill. And for any of you that aren't familiar with that, the state police of Massachusetts are already working on this and passing out blue envelopes. And those blue envelopes are for individuals with autism, that are drivers, have driver's licenses, and they can put their driver's license in there, their insurance for their vehicle, their registration. So if in fact they would get stopped, maybe in a car accident, or they get stopped in a motor vehicle situation, and, most often the communication issues are difficult with someone that may be on the spectrum with autism, and they'd be able to pass the state police officer, or possibly down the road, we'll have more municipalities using it, so that the officer understands, and it's also in this blue envelope, understands how to communicate with the individual. So there's no issues or, it due to communication issues and possible problems, if they don't realize that the person has that particular disability, it could become problematic. So this new blue envelope thing is really, I'm really happy to hear that they're using it, and hopefully that bill gets passed. But it's great to know, even without the complete passing of the bill, that the state police are doing it.
We're also doing a lot to support local municipalities. As Mary had mentioned earlier in the program, we are opening up applications for our municipal ADA improvement grant on May 1st. This year, we will have $5 million to distribute this year, which is very exciting. It's up from $4 million this current fiscal year. We're also convening, as we mentioned earlier, a peer resource group for local ADA coordinators. So if you are a local ADA coordinator, check out our website. We've got some upcoming programming for you actually tomorrow morning. So give us a shout over there. And, we're really looking to make sure that both state, as Mary was talking about, and local government has the support that they need to be accessible for all. So Mary's going to tell you about some upcoming training. Or I'm going to tell you about some upcoming training. So we have a bunch of upcoming training.
May. The quarterly tea with MOD.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have an upcoming training in May. Do you want to tell them about this, Mary?
No, you can. You have notes there. That's not one I just read. So
there's information about our trainings in your swag bags and on the screen up here, and at mass.gov/mod/events. We have an upcoming quarterly tea. We have some upcoming community access monitor trainings. So please check those out. There's brochures at the back of the room. And on your way in, please stick around to finish up the food back there and mingle, continue the great conversations that you started during the break. Thank you so much to our virtual guests for joining us. It's really neat that we can sort of be in two places at once these days and have folks both online and in person. So thank you all for coming. And
we are going to have a door prize, and are we going to wait till the very end? Yes,
no.
we will.
We're gonna give it now.
What time is it now?
It's 12:30.
All right. Do people promise to stay and talk and share more ideas if we give it out now?
They do. They're all
okay. Good. All right.
All right.
I want to use the room till its fullest ability. We have it till 1. So a couple of other things that are really, really important is that, since I've been at MOD, there's been a lot of great work. There's always been a lot of great work with MOD. I shouldn't say it that way, but there's been a major focus on articles and things that are written on our website. And, with clarity, with a lot of specificity and really good information that takes the team of people at the agency a long time to put it together so that it's very understandable by folks. And we have people probably scattered around the room here. There's 14 of us right now that work at the Massachusetts Office on Disability. And I would please like all MOD employees, if you're sitting, to stand. If you're standing, put your arms up in the air, because you all should have a big round of applause.
Hey. So our door prize winner today is.
That was a drum roll.
Lilia texted it to me, but I do not have my phone on me. Thank you for your patience.
We need a better drum roll than that. It is
Janice Morabasi.
Janice.
You still here?
Yeah.
Janice, you win a go bag.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for a great event. It was great to meet some of you, and hopefully I'll meet some more of you in the next couple minutes.
All right. Thank you very much for attending. And after you leave today, have a wonderful, healthy, safe day, and keep on advocating. Oh, picture. Oh.